sent you fucking fascist. Talented, brilliant, incredible, amazing, show-stopping, spectacular.
Remember my equation. I have equations in life. One of them is secularism plus affluence equals boredom. And boredom equals bad stuff.
Wow. I think I discovered that song like back in February, and I was like, I couldn't wait to share it, but then I got sick.
Yeah, you got real sick, which is why we had to delay this. Liberty AF podcast episode number 7.
Is this number 7?
It is.
All right.
Yeah, it's 7. I confirmed before we started, and I was going to title this one, "What is an Astronaut?"
What is an astronaut? That's a good one.
That's a working title.
Yeah.
That's a working title. Do you like it?
Yeah. Well, it's...
have you seen all the memes that have just been absolutely glorious today of Katy Perry with this whole Blue Origin?
Yeah, I didn't see any of the memes, but I did hear about, Katy Perry and 5 other women riding a giant dick into space for the shortest space trip.
11 minutes. 11 minutes. Yeah, I was listening to this comedian earlier. He was like, dude, because I can spend more time just trying to find a parking spot at Costco,
That's actually accurate.
I want to play you this clip, and it's her being interviewed. This is Katy Perry being interviewed before. This is beforehand. Let's see if I can
To learn more about STEM.
Oh, hold on. Okay, she's
I'm really excited about the engineering.
She's kind of like talking about like beforehand, and she talks about STEM and other stuff, which none of it like made sense the way she's talking about it. It's a very Kamala moment.
I'm excited to learn more about STEM and just the math about what it takes to accomplish this type of thing.
So is this where I put the oil?
I was winding down from a rehearsal the other day, and I was listening to Cosmos by Carl Sagan and reading a book on string theory. And yeah, it was like
reading a book on string theory.
You're basically going for like a extra high airline flight.
Yeah. And this is her after the trip. This is post trip now.
Thank you so much.
How do you feel?
I feel super connected to love. So connected to love. I think
this
experience has shown
Katy Perry.
me you never know how much love is inside of you, like how much love you have to give, and how loved you are until the day you launch.
No, okay, stop. She
brought a real life daisy. It's her daughter's name, and she brought a daisy flower, which is, by the way, a weed. I actually been killing weeds in my yard. She took it to space, and she's holding it in front of her face, and it's like this. It's supposed to be this moment where you're above the stars and you're looking down and you see how connected everyone actually is, and we should let bygones be bygones. Like this whole psychobabble shit,
She only had to do one thing: walk out of the space capsule.
Dude, I was reading.
Tell the first camera that you see, yes, the world is round. It's not flat.
The world is round. That's true. Actually, that's kind of all you would have had to do.
Yeah. Hey, everybody! Now I see it myself. It's round.
Gayle King defends Blue Origin flight after backlash. Says, "Whoops, I didn't mean to."
How did they decide on Gayle King and Katy Perry?
Fuck is this? I don't know. These ads, dude. I thought I was in Brave, but I wasn't. I was in the wrong browser. Yeah. So it's kind of just been a total dumpster fire, and I've really enjoyed the memes they've been dropping pretty regularly on Instagram. I fall into those algorithms pretty quickly. So
this is being billed as the first all-female crew to go to space
in several decades.
Oh, asterisk.
Yes.
In several decades. So progress actually happened in 1963.
Dude, I don't even think you can compare this to that. These women haven't trained their whole life to
Well,
be
I'm sure they were driving, right? I'm sure they were pushing the
this thing's
buttons.
all remote control, man.
Oh, no. They definitely gave him a little steering wheel.
Yeah, it's like one of those teacup ones, like like at the amusement park where everyone's spinning it, but it's not really doing anything.
I can imagine it's got a little squeaker where the horn is supposed to be.
I mean, I'm not trying to belittle like the tourism aspect of this, but it's basically
Well, you don't have to be qualified to be a tourist.
No, you don't have to be qualified.
I think that's the definition of a tourist is an unqualified person.
You just have to have money. It's like when we go, I don't know, we've been to the amusement parks a handful of times, and when you go, you spend the extra moolah for the speed pass because you're like, well, I'm only going to come here like every 5 years. So what's an extra $100?
Right. I just jump to the front of the line.
Yeah. That's what this is. This is the ultimate flex on all the poors with the speed pass. Like I beat you to space.
Except they didn't. I mean, they did from the tourism point of view. Yeah. Yeah.
This thing cost $1 million a minute for this trip.
Well, isn't it Jeff Bezos's rocket?
Yeah.
Oh, I see what you're saying though. That's how
I'm just saying the expense of this, right? Like going to a theme park cost $1 million a minute.
Okay. Which is like Universal Studios.
Pretty much. I mean, if you're looking at it like scale for like the poors going to Universal Studios, spending like $300 a person, you have a family of 5, you're in for 15 hundo. Yeah. That's like, these billionaires spending $1 million a minute to go. Like, whatever, dude. It's, it's no big deal.
Yeah, I guess at Universal Studios it's more like $1 a minute. No, maybe it's like $2 a minute. So, for those,
I mean, it's a little cheaper than that. I mean, because you're there for like 8 hours, usually.
Well, I mean, for the whole party.
Yeah. I was thinking per person. Yeah, you're right. Yeah, you're right. It's about $1 to $2 a minute. I mean, this pretty much scales in. Just missing a few zeros.
So if you're living under a rock and you haven't been following this story, just for some context, there was a Russian woman, Valentina Tereshkova, who was the first all-female crew because she was the only one on the rocket that launched into space in 1963. And she orbited.
She was probably like legit trained for that mission.
Oh, no, I'm sure she was just a celebrity in communist Russia.
That's right.
Yeah.
Yeah, what was the equivalent of TikTok back then?
That's an interesting thought experiment right there. Yeah.
By the way, we're looking for sponsors. Zen, if you're listening.
Yes. I don't know where I put mine. Mine are hiding from me right now. But dude, what's not hiding is my...
Your whiskey.
Bourbon.
So I found the perfect combination. If you pop, what is this? The wintergreen.
Mm-hmm.
Pop a wintergreen Zen, and then about 20 minutes later, pop a citrus. So I pop a 6 ml wintergreen.
Okay.
And about 20 minutes, I pop a 3 ml citrus. Dude, it's like a flavor explosion. It's amazing. And you just kind of like re-up on that nick, It's just like, you like kind of go up and you kind of come down and then you pick up another.
Whoever thought we could get so like precise with our nicotine?
Dude, dialed. So dialed.
Yeah, so Valentina Tereshkova spent 3 days in space.
Okay.
And it was a solo mission.
I feel like that's a legit astronaut.
She actually had to wear a space helmet, unlike... these ladies, that was another thing that I noticed. They're all getting on the spacecraft, and they all literally look like they walked out.
Oh, dude, like they just
salon.
got out of the salon. Oh, they 100% did.
Yeah,
let's go to the clouds.
The cloud?
Astronaut. I'm asking ChatGPT. All right, I just want to know definitionally. Okay, let's see.
I wonder if Valentina's still alive.
Maybe. She's Russian, right?
Oh my God, she is still alive. She got to see this
Oh God, dude. She probably
She's like,
cringy.
First the fall of communism. Now I got to watch this.
So the reason why I'm asking about this is not because of the whole Matt Walsh "what is a woman" thing, although that is kind of funny. That's some subtext. But the articles I saw often, regarding this story. By the way, there was an article that came out yesterday. Katy Perry takes last-minute astronaut lessons before a rocket to space. Singer Katy Perry undertaking final preparations before she meets up with an all-female crew into space. The crew made up of Katy Perry, former NASA rocket scientist Aisha Bowe, so at least they did have someone on board who probably knew what they were doing. A civil rights activist, Amanda Nagayan, film producer, Carrie Ann Flynn, and a journalist, Lauren Sanchez, managed to get in some last-minute astronaut lessons in Texas on Sunday.
Is the lesson just don't touch anything?
Yeah. So I'm like, okay. So I go to ChatGPT because ChatGPT's got to know everything, right? So okay, what is an astronaut? I figure that's pretty. I could probably get an accurate answer.
You probably get more training on a flight when you're in the exit. When you're in the
flight attendant gets more training and about flying shit.
No, I mean as a passenger.
Oh yeah.
In the exit row, you probably get more training.
So an astronaut is a person who is trained to travel and work in space.
Well,
astronauts
taking selfies is work.
But astronauts operate spacecraft, conduct scientific experiments, perform spacewalks, and maintain space stations like the International Space Station. They go through intense physical, technical, psychological training, which we know.
Oh, yeah. I'm sure Gail King went through some intense psychological training.
For the challenge of specifically like zero gravity, confined living quarters, and long periods of Earth. It goes on. But basically, I'm going to say you're not an astronaut because you sat on a remote control dildo and spent 11 minutes in flight.
So let's ask Google. I'm going to type into Google first whoops, I should spell first correctly. First all female. Oh, look what comes up. Space crew.
Space crew.
All right.
Oh, now it's a space crew.
And now it's.
Which I guess that's kind of accurate. I mean, that could be kind of all right. I think using the word astronaut is a stretch, is all I'm saying.
Well, I mean, if you're taking astronaut training, the implication is that you are an astronaut.
Astronauts train for a long time.
Yeah.
These guys are like, oh, I'm going to just go get some last minute training in Sunday before we pop out,
Okay, so CBS News calls this historic space launch. Let's see what's historic about it. I like how they phrase this.
Yeah,
Blue Origin's first all-women flight crew.
Yeah. Okay, that's accurate.
Blasted off Monday on a journey 62 miles above the Earth's surface to the Kármán line, the internationally recognized boundary of space, which, by the way, that is an arbitrary line. And I'm only saying that because it's like, oh, we made it to the line. Like, the line is made up. So
it is made up.
Hold on. Blue Origin's historic trip to space. It doesn't say why it's historic. First all-women crew to lift off in nearly 6 decades.
I mean, just for some context, the pilots of the SR-71 Blackbird used to fly at 16 miles at Mach 3.5 above Earth.
You know that
which is 2,200 miles per hour.
The metal in the SR-71 stretched during supersonic flight.
Didn't it stretch up to 6 feet?
No, I don't think 6
or 6
feet.
inches. I thought it was 6.
It was significant. It was a major engineering challenge. Yeah.
Yes. Yeah. Just from the expansion and the heat and the metal or the composites they were using probably wasn't metal.
I don't understand. I don't see anything about how this is historic.
Dude, the temperatures, it cruising at Mach 3.2, it heated the aircraft external surface well beyond 500 degrees.
Yeah, as far as I understand,
inside of the windshield 250 degrees.
I understand that was a miserable flying experience, and it lasted for like 12 hours.
Yeah. That's that. I don't know. I'm just like, so anyways, the reason why I thought it was funny was because, yeah, the Katy Perry is memeing herself, but she's talking about STEM and math and all this stuff beforehand and like, you know, what it takes to do this. And I'm like, you didn't do. And she's like, and she even says, I really just like astronomy, astrology, the stars. I'm like,
no,
yes.
She did not say astrology.
Yes. Hold on. We're gonna back this up for a quick second.
I feel super connected to love.
You didn't slow this down, did you?
Hold on. That's the wrong clip. That was the wrong clip. Here we go. We're going back to this. It's like
of it all. I'm excited to learn more about STEM and just the math about what it takes to accomplish this type of thing.
Mm-hmm.
I was winding down from a rehearsal the other day, and I was listening to Cosmos by Carl Sagan and reading a book on string theory. And yeah, I was like going to bed. That was definitely like helping. I was like, Pythagoras. But, you know, I've always been interested in astrophysics and interested in astronomy and astrology and the stars. I feel like we are all made of stardust and we all come from the stars, and it'll be exciting to see
so
them.
I'm just saying it's like kind of like making a mockery of like actual astronauts who
so it's like this only exists because there's media behind it. Like this wouldn't happen.
Yeah, well, and social media behind it. You know,
if it wasn't designed to be hyped by the media. So then what is the point?
It's the flex, dude. We got the speed pass and you don't. That's the point.
Yeah, but why is Jeff Bezos involved?
Because his girlfriend was on the plane or on the dildo.
Who was that?
What's her name?
Gail King?
No. What's her name? Now I can't even find this.
Who is Jeff Bezos' girlfriend? Lauren Sanchez. Okay.
Yeah, Lauren Sanchez. That's what I wanted to say that, but I wanted to be accurate.
Oh,
you know, we're all about reporting.
She looks like a Hollywood reporter.
Dude, she is.
She looks like somebody who's playing a reporter on CSI.
She is one slightly transparent gown away from being Kanye's girlfriend. Kind of like looking person.
I'm not saying that she's not a good journalist. I don't know, but it's kind of funny that, like, yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, it's great. So anyways, I thought that was kind of
but that still doesn't make any sense to me. What I mean, send her up, you know. That's the perk of dating the guy who owns the 300 or 150 foot penis rocket.
Yeah.
But I don't understand this push for calling this a historic flight and gaslighting people about it being the first female crew. You know, I don't get it. What's the point?
Yeah, the Red Bull jump from space was at 127,852 feet. And that was a free fall. Okay. That's scary. That would be freaking nuts.
Yeah.
That's something. You step out of a capsule in a suit and free fall.
Yeah, they weren't even sure he was going to live through the first 30 seconds of that.
Right. No, I mean, that's setting like a record. That's setting like how many miles is 127 now? That's 24 miles.
Oh,
dude.
Lauren Sanchez is the one that Zuckerberg was peeping on.
Yeah, exactly. At the inauguration, because she had her knockers out, dude. That's why I'm saying, dude, she's like literally one transparent gown away from being Yee's.
No, I need somebody to explain to me what the purpose of this whole thing was.
That's it, man. It's just
because
a flex.
It's just blatantly obvious that this was just some kind of like publicity stunt, but for why? Like, I don't get the purpose of gaslighting people into calling it historic. And, I guess everybody's talking about it. So it's like all publicity is good publicity.
What I want to know is what legislation passed yesterday or in the last 24 hours that we didn't catch.
Oh yeah.
That's usually what I'm start thinking is like tinfoil hat goes on. Is like, okay, we're being distracted by this. All the media is going to cover this for 24-hour news cycle. So what are we missing?
Yeah.
Like what didn't we catch?
Did anybody interview Lauren Sanchez before she went up into space?
I don't know. Probably. I'm sure they all got interviewed. The memes though are just popping around with Katy Perry because
it's weird because it's like Katy Perry's getting all the attention, Gayle King's getting attention. I haven't heard anybody talk about Lauren Sanchez. I don't know. So this, like I said, the media is complicit in this publicity stunt. I mean, as they always are.
You know what this reminds me of?
Recent polls have shown a fifth of Americans can't locate the U.S. on a world map. Why do you think this is?
I personally believe that U.S. Americans are unable to do so because some people out there in our nation don't have maps, and I believe that our education, such as in South Africa and the Iraq, everywhere such as, and I believe that they should, our education over here in the U.S. should help the U.S. or should help South Africa. It should help the Iraq and the Asian countries.
That was Miss Carolina, Miss Teen 2007. That's when I was listening to Katy Perry talk about astrology and astronomy, and I'm like, dude, this is Miss Carolina 2007.
Yeah, his face. The guy standing next to her, he's from Saved by the Bell. What's his name?
Oh, dude. He is wasn't he
he's Slater.
Slater. Yeah.
His face while she's giving that answer is hilarious.
Yeah, he's just looking around like do we just let her keep talking or So yeah, I thought that was a good opener. It was a good icebreaker, for episode 7. We've had to postpone this episode twice, once due to the fact that you actually had pneumonia.
I was the sickest I've ever been in my whole life.
Yeah. You had no voice for what, 2 or 3 weeks?
Almost 4.
Almost 4 weeks.
Yeah.
What was that like?
It was like felt like a version of solitary confinement.
Yeah.
Yeah. Now, I could whisper, but I guess whispering is just as bad as talking when your voice is out of commission.
So did you have a notepad to write stuff down?
So I tried to not whisper, but I couldn't do it. It was too isolating to just sit there and not talk. So,
do you think that made it longer for you to?
I don't know. I mean,
I've never had pneumonia, so I don't know. I mean, I've lost my voice in the past, but just because I was yelling at a concert.
I don't think that the pneumonia had anything to do with the voice loss, because the voice loss started way before I started feeling the serious respiratory symptoms, and the voice loss stuck around even after the pneumonia was gone. So I don't know, but it was definitely weird. So do not recommend that.
And you of course you're the typical dude bro guy who's like, I'm fine, I'll take some Tylenol, I'll wake up tomorrow. And
I started feeling sick on a Thursday, and I had a class to teach on Saturday, and I decided I'll feel it out on Friday. And on Friday I was feeling okay, and then Saturday morning I woke up. Now it's too late to cancel the class, so I just got to go. But dude, I felt like shit on Saturday morning, and I drove the hour down to where the class was, and I did the class, and my voice died towards the end of the class.
Did you start voice cracking like you were 11?
No, it was just coming out raspy.
Oh.
And I basically ended the class early, and I could barely stay on my feet. I get in the car to go home, and I get pulled over by a state trooper trying to rush to a bathroom. And fortunately, he gave me a warning because I told him, I was like, look, man, I took a gamble. I didn't know what was going to happen, but I had to get to the bathroom. So he let me go.
Really? That actually worked?
It worked. Yeah.
Did you tell him that wait, was that leaving the class?
No, this was almost when I was home.
Did you tell him like I'm just leaving from a firearms class? No, you didn't say nothing like that.
No, I don't feel right pulling that card because I feel like that card is dumb.
I can see that. I will say I got out of one speeding ticket while I was living in Atlanta, and I don't know if it was a big black dude cop in DeKalb County, and I was whipping down 285 to get onto I-20 to go east, and I was speeding. Everyone speeds on 285 in Atlanta. You just have to. It's a 55 mile an hour zone. Georgia Tech did a study, and the average speed was 71. Because I mean, honestly, if you're going any slower than 70, you're impeding traffic, and you're probably going to kind of get into a wreck. So I'm not always, but back then I was always well, if everyone's driving defensively, that means someone has to be offensive. That's me, kind of thing. And I think he got me at like 78 or 74 or something like that. Pulled over, and there's no duty to inform in Georgia, but I just kind of just said, hey, just so you know, I've got a firearm on my side. He was like, what do you got? And I just said, looks like the same as you. Looks like a Glock 19. He was like, yep, okay. I took my stuff, and he was like, hey, man, just keep your speed down.
Yeah.
He was like real cool about it.
Well, so
I'm not saying like, I don't know if that really mattered. It may not have mattered at all.
It's not the concealed carry thing that I have a problem with pulling. It would be I'm an instructor, which feels almost like saying, I'm just like you, officer. I'm a security guard. Like
I'm Paul Blart.
I get it. I get how it is out in these streets, man.
You're right. Yeah, I got the heater
Sir,
on me
get
just
back
like
in your
you,
car.
bro. It's like, get the hell out of here, you dumbass.
Yeah. So, I mean, it did occur to me to say something, but I was like, I just can't do that. I'm not going to get a ticket before I say
it's
that.
Like a little too douchey or something.
Yeah. So,
I
no, you don't understand. I'm helping people. So
the last speeding ticket I got, I was on my way to the airport to pick mom up. Airport. Yeah, there was no let off for that.
Yeah.
I told them I had guns on me or something.
Well, in Colorado, my experience with state troopers has been nothing but positive, and this one goes in that category too. So the thing that got me pulled over was I turned right on the shoulder of the intersection. There was no right turn lane. I just bombed right down. I mean, two of my wheels were off the road.
Gotcha.
And I just blew right past the trooper who was sitting there in the right-hand lane. So
yeah, not a whole lot really you can do at that point.
Yeah.
There's not a lot of recovery.
Well, I saw him. I could have stopped. I saw him there, and I thought to myself for a second, dang it, now I have to wait. And then I thought, nah, I'm just going to do it. And so I just went for it. And before my back wheels even got through the intersection, his lights were already on. So he saw me coming in his mirror.
Yeah, you were cooked, dude.
He's like, I can't believe this dude is about to do this.
That's probably what he was thinking.
I told him I saw him. I told him, I go, I knew you were there. I said, I wasn't really sure if this was legal or not, but I really needed to get to the bathroom.
Dude.
So
I have some news that might make your day a little bit happier.
Okay.
The brain, the athlete, the basket case, the princess, and the criminal are reuniting.
Okay. The brain, the basket case,
the athlete,
the princess, and the criminal. I feel like I'm close, but I don't have it.
Last time they were together, they were serving high school detention.
Oh, is this the new Breakfast Club?
Yeah, dude. So,
dude, the trailer looked like it absolutely sucked.
It did, but it's like they're bringing him back, like Judd Nelson, Anthony Michael Hall, Molly Ringwald, Ali Sheedy, and of course Emilio Estevez.
Well, that would be the only part I'm excited about.
Right. But they're meeting in Chicago where the film was shot for like a reunion.
So this isn't a remake.
No, it's not a reboot. No, it's just a reunion.
I thought the reboot came out last year.
Which is kind of cool because growing up, you and I were big fans of Emilio Estevez. Like Men at Work and Young Guns and everything. And then he just dropped.
He quit.
He quit.
He quit acting.
Some producing.
He quit Hollywood.
Yeah. Of course, Charlie Sheen went on to be like Tiger Blood, and then he kind of faded out for ever since he went weird. And I think he stopped doing cocaine and stuff. Maybe he went to rehab. I don't know. But so yeah. Anyways, like the appearance, they're going to be making like, I don't know. There's like a Chicago Comic and Entertainment Expo.
Okay.
And they're going to be like doing a reunited thing. So you Gen Xers who
this actually kind of
watch The Breakfast Club
leads into something I've been thinking a lot about lately, which is like our culture is really weird. You know, like if you've ever spent time with any other major cultures, when I say major, I mean like a big group of people within a culture.
Right.
So like Indians or Vietnamese or
Filipino, like
Latino, African. Yeah.
Because when we grew up, we had lots of friends who were part of big families who were Vietnamese or Filipino in Southern California.
Yeah.
And so you had you were introduced to a lot of different culture styles at a very young age, just by nature of going to their house, having meals with them, stuff like that.
Yeah. And I've spent time, a fair amount of time, not like weeks or anything, but I've spent a fair amount of time with Indians, definitely with Mexicans, Latinos, and Native Americans and Filipinos, Ethiopians, and our culture is strange because like if you talk to somebody your age, what are you going to talk about? You don't know them very well, but they're your age. What are you going to talk about?
From a different culture or just in general?
From your, like, just you're at a party and it's your friend's party and you're talking to some of his friends and you're like, oh, I'm late Gen X, I'm early millennial, you know. You're going to probably talk about TV shows and music and sports teams. And
I think music's a big one.
Yeah.
Because I mean, even if you're not an audiophile or anything, you still probably have a preference as far as a genre or something that influenced your life as a teenager growing up, like whether it was punk or rock or something.
The shared experience would be that we watched the same shows, that we listened to the same music, saw the same movies, played with the same toys, you know?
Yeah. Yeah.
That's a pretty, like, shallow existence. It's like, oh, dude, you remember Saved by the Bell?
Right.
Like, you mean a TV show that was designed to sell, like, Kool-Aid and...
Yeah. Zach Morris had the cell phone with the big antenna on it.
Yeah.
Yeah, it is kind of strange. I guess... I guess
now you can vibe with somebody who like grew up in the same type of church as you.
Oh, for sure. I mean, some of the best memes are the Christian memes that we share in some of our groups.
Mm-hmm.
And because you can look back on it and remember how you felt in that moment, and then also now how you feel about it now as an adult, and go like, yeah, that was pretty awkward.
Yeah, but it's just weird to me that like we get excited about an actor like Emilio Estevez coming back for an interview 40 years after.
Yeah, it's definitely goofy.
It's weird. It's really weird. And it seems to me, and this could just be my perception, but it seems to me that every subsequent generation gets more and more into things that aren't real. You know,
that just tells me people are trying to escape the reality even more so than ever. You know,
right?
And
it's like, you know, something that's really big with Gen Z and Gen Alpha is fan fiction.
Right.
It's like taking somebody else's story and then like making up your own stuff for that story.
Yeah, there's actually I was listening to a podcast and I can't remember which one it was off the top of my head, but they were talking about how there's been this hijacking of for podcasters who are basically who do true crime stuff, but they're like using AI to make up true crime that has never even happened. And they're doing these stories about it. I guess because the interest pool is so broad.
Well, yeah, anytime you have something that a lot of people get interested in, you're going to get the fraudsters are coming.
All the grift comes in. And
yeah.
So I think for me, it's just more of like that nostalgia aspect of it than it is anything else, because there's only so much new shit that comes out that's good.
Yeah.
Music, and I think that's why I kind of come back to music. And on the topic of music, I'm kind of getting back into physical media.
Mm-hmm.
Hey, actually, look what I picked up after we went to the movies the other night or afternoon. Picked up a couple records.
Oh, you got some records.
So for those that are listening to the podcast, I got the Beastie Boys' License to Ill album, which was a pretty pivotal album for me, and then also U2 Songs of Surrender album.
Nice.
U2 was I was a big U2 fan in my early mid-teens, I guess. So this would have been in the early to mid-90s. So I went to a couple of their concerts and stuff. Like today, in this day and age, I don't really listen to them because I love the band like I did when I was a teenager. It's just more nostalgia. It brings me back to like where I was and stuff like that. But all to say is that it's kind of spawned this desire to have media in my possession again, and like rip it to my Jellyfin, my Plex server, and kind of like retain it all. I picked up like, I don't know, 8 or 9 CDs as well.
This is the last vinyl purchase that I made.
Good album. Yeah,
good album. Tragic Kingdom. Actually, it's a gift for my daughter, but it lives in my office, so it's basically mine. So
yeah, that's cool. Yeah, no, but I guess it's like it's a tangible way to hold on to something. So I think that feeling comes back when I see something like the Breakfast Club reunion.
So to be cynical about it, I would say like it's a tangible feeling to connect you to something where an older, stronger culture, you would probably do that within your family or circle,
Right.
And we're like, oh, Beastie Boys. Like Beastie Boys never met you. They don't know you.
No.
And it's not really like I'm not trying to be critical. It's just an observation.
Yeah, no, I understand what you're saying. And I acknowledge, I mean, you're right. It is exactly that. They don't know who I am, but it like not just one band, but like bands of 5 or 7 years kind of shaped the way I thought about things, because as you grow up, especially without the internet at a younger age, when I say without the internet, we had dial-in and we had bulletin boards, but I'm just saying it wasn't ubiquitous. You didn't have an always-on device in your pocket, right? That would give you all this access to all this like other genres and information. It was like it was kind of like what you had access to is what influenced you. So for me, that was hip hop, that was rap, and it was alternative and rock music for sure. And when I say rock, I'm talking about it's kind of a wide paintbrush for rock music.
Yeah.
It could have been Stone Temple Pilots, it could have been Nirvana. But
so like the implication of this could be that because people are so connected. Oh, look at that. You got reload. Connected, so to speak, through things like media and online communities and blah, 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 et cetera, et cetera.
Right. So for instance, when we were growing up, we were kind of on that. We mostly had tapes, and I'm talking ages like 8 to 12 or 13.
Mm-hmm.
We had tapes. We had friends like David around the corner who had
Mm-hmm.
tapes, and we would dub each other's tapes.
Mm-hmm.
It created a community around like, hey, can I borrow that tape for a couple days? Oh yeah, sure. I'm gonna record it. Remember, you get the
borrowing music used to be huge.
And that's kind of how you got exposed to it, because all you ever heard on the radio was just the hits. That was it.
Right.
And so you had this tangible exchange of like borrowing a tape from somebody, you'd listen to it or dub it and then give it back, and they might borrow some from you, and it kind of created this like way to get exposed to maybe some new kinds of music you haven't heard before or whatever, versus now where you could just share a playlist on Spotify or something with somebody, and it's cool, but like you don't really put as much energy or focus into consuming that.
If
It's
I
like
share
more
a
of like
playlist with you, you don't ever have to return it to me.
I don't
So
have to
there's
give it
there's no like, oh, I'll give this back to you in a week, so let me listen to it.
right.
Right.
And then of course it kind of progressed to CDs.
Yeah.
And I would actually, I don't know if you remember, but Mom had this really cool boombox that had a CD player and a tape deck built into it side by side. And what I learned very quickly was that I could record CDs onto tape, which was really cool. I mean, that was like a game changer back then.
Yeah.
So, and then it got, I'm just saying like, it still continued on even with CDs. And then of course, in the late 90s, we kind of started downloading music from like Napster and shit like that.
So I think like our experience with media back then was ephemeral, right? Like a TV show came on once.
Yeah. And if you missed it, unless you actually had your VCR set to record it, it was just, you missed it.
Right. And then after it was over, you would talk about it with your friends.
Right.
And music you would share, go to see shows, etc. And now it's like our engagement with all of that is very isolated. It's like you'll spend a bunch of time online. You'll probably consume, in a typical day, if we're being conservative, an hour of media. That's very conservative.
Easily.
But you're probably not experiencing it with the people around you. You're experiencing it by yourself.
Right.
You might even share a link or two, but that doesn't mean that people are going to listen to it or watch it. And so I think what that does is it slowly pulls us into a culture of like you're isolated in an online experience and away from other people.
Even in our group chats, like we have a group chat
and
we drop memes in there, but we also share Instagram reels. And I bet you the people in our Instagram group that we'd share their reels with, like maybe they watch them, maybe they don't, maybe they don't even bother. Literally, what is the effort to press and hold and put a laugh face on it? And it seems like that's a lot of effort.
So there's like,
there's memes about that whole engagement or, that whole interaction where like,
So one of the consequences that I think could be coming from this is that you basically derive your identity from your isolated internet experiences.
Yeah, I would say so.
And then that's going to include the media.
Right.
Because the media generates so much online content. Even if you don't agree with it, it's still generating so much of the online content.
The interesting thing is the algorithm eventually starts serving you content that you do agree with.
Right. Well, it depends on the algorithm. Depends on...
Sure.
Yeah. So maybe this is why everybody's insane right now.
Yes, absolutely. Absolutely.
Where some politician does something and it's immediately a threat to democracy and requires you to go out and into the streets and burn down private property in the name of protecting democracy, whatever that means,
It means whatever you disagree with.
Yeah, I mean, people keep saying that they're out there, democracy's at stake. And I'm like, I don't even think you know what you mean.
I think that the word democracy gets used in a way that says everything I disagree with.
Yeah. Yeah,
I'm
because so for instance, I've been on Reddit more than I should be lately, and I keep seeing these posts about the protests coming, the hands-off protest and the defend democracy protest. And the one I saw that's coming up for the 19th of April in Denver had a picture of the Capitol, and in somewhat transparent lettering, all the things that fall under the umbrella of what we're trying to protect. So women's rights and minority rights and free speech and blah, 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 blah. Just like even veterans was on there, which I thought was funny. But you know what wasn't on that list? Take a guess at one right that was not being talked about being protected on that list.
The right to protect yourself?
Yeah. Well, the right to the tools to protect yourself.
The right to the tools to protect yourself.
Right. Because the whole point of the protest is to protect yourself from the big bad Elon Musk.
If you can't protect yourself and you can't protect the rights with the tools,
right,
then none of it else really matters.
Right. And the disconnect here for me is that the assault weapons ban just passed in Colorado.
Right.
And even on Reddit, the opinions about this bill were overwhelmingly against it. Most of the Democrats who spoke about it were against the assault weapons ban, believing that Trump is exactly the type of president that the founders were thinking about when they wrote the Second Amendment. They're taking away our trans rights, they're taking away our abortion rights, they're taking away our free speech and everything. This is why we need guns, and this is the last time in history when we should be getting rid of the right to bear arms.
Right.
But yet the big anti-Trump protest does not include gun rights.
Right, and it should. And for those who are pro Second Amendment, don't forget what Trump did in his first term as president.
Yeah.
He was more anti-gun. Now, he may be a different guy now.
Well,
I don't
Pam
know.
Bondi is more anti-gun than he is.
Yes.
And she's the attorney general.
Correct.
So
I remember when Obama won, especially the second term, people were like, "Oh my gosh, he's going to take." And the national assault weapons ban expired under him.
No, it expired under Bush.
No, it did expire under Bush. That's right.
2000
it was signed under Clinton.
2004 or 2006.
Yeah, I think it was.
I think it was 2004.
2004. Yeah, I think it was. But when we're talking about things like the bump stocks and stuff like that, like that was a big deal. And I struggle when you're dealing with sides, duopoly, and one side wants to be 100% correct than the other side, and I'm like, no, like you can't, there's a lot of nuance within these supposed rights and what you call democracy. First of all, too, let's not forget that we are a constitutional republic. We always have been. A true democracy isn't exactly that wouldn't really work with the amount of population that we have and the gap within what everyone needs, depending upon where you live.
Well, the cities would dominate public policy.
Sure, they would.
And that's 50% of the population, but it's more than 50% of the power.
Right.
So
that's not a democracy. That's not.
And that was the issue in the 1780s that they were trying to figure out how to solve. The big state versus small state question was not a question of square miles. It was a question of population.
But I think where the pushback for the fight for democracy is coming from is the egregious abuse of executive powers.
Yes.
And that is where, because I feel like this is setting a precedent or a trend with every changing of the guard.
Well, you know who actually started this trend of defying the courts and doing whatever he wanted to do? is Thomas Jefferson. People keep talking about this is a constitutional crisis, that Trump is doing, whatever he wants, and he's not listening and he's not obeying the balance of powers and everything. Thomas Jefferson did the same thing. And he essentially created a constitutional crisis in the first, I think it was in the first several months of his first term.
I mean, that's usually where you do the most damage. The
first
100 days,
he basically had a very philosophically different opinion about the role of the Supreme Court. And he really felt like the Supreme Court was not even an equal branch of government. It shouldn't be one. And so I don't remember all the details, but it was a very serious case. Marbury versus was it Marbury versus Madison? I think it was Marbury versus Madison. And this has set up the combative nature between the branches, which, by the way, I don't even think is a bad thing. I think it's okay that the branches are constantly fighting for power. I think it keeps, in its own way, it keeps each of those branches in check. I don't want these branches working together. That's for sure.
But my question, though, generally speaking,
Mm-hmm.
not necessarily just to you, is how do the people keep those three branches in check, though, without any way to enforce any kind of potential overthrow? I feel like
you can't. I don't think they can.
Yeah, I don't think you can.
I think that's the point of making three equal branches of government, is that the only way that any branch stays in check is that another branch checks them, because the people can't do it.
Right. That's what I'm saying. Like,
unless it's violent.
Yeah. Well, yeah.
And so,
but if you erode the ability to have that violence, then that's not even.
I mean, that's the ultimate.
And I'm not
check.
promoting violence. I'm just.
That's the nuclear option, right? Is if the people have the means to hold the entire government accountable. You don't want it to get that far, because it's bad for everybody.
Yeah, I mean,
but if you remove that from the people,
sure,
then the only destination becomes tyranny.
Correct.
Yeah. Because eventually these three branches will stop fighting each other, and they're still going to start realizing that if they take care of each other, then they'll get what they want.
Yeah, there's bigger challenges as well, right? With money being speech, corporations being people,
yeah,
and influence to serve the where the money comes from, and
yeah. But you know who built the government in the first place was bankers.
Banks, yeah.
So, it's not like a new problem.
No. It's not a new problem, but I think that's kind of where I'm going with this, is that we had a moment as a country. We had a moment, in my lifetime at least, that I've seen where I've ever witnessed or I didn't go, but during Occupy Wall Street was a moment, and it lasted much longer than a single moment. I'm just saying a moment in our history where I remember having conversations with people who both identified as a Republican or Democrat or Libertarian or centrist or whatever. And there was almost like a unanimous feeling that because of a corrupt banking system, we were basically doomed. We were. I mean, that led to the 2008 mortgage crisis and everything else, and banks were getting bailed out with taxpayer dollars. But yet at the same time, bank executives were being rewarded like unproportionally, even though that they should have failed. Like any other traditional business would have failed and closed the doors. Like, you know what I'm saying? But because there's so much hinging and dependent upon the monetary system being propped up and working, because if you let banks fail, right, they're gonna say, well, it's going to create more problems and it's going to create more economic blowback. So it's just this like constant back and forth, and I almost feel like people's frustrations at that time during Occupy Wall Street were directed in the right place.
Yeah, where did everybody camp out?
fucking Wall Street,
in front of the banks.
in front of the banks.
Yeah.
And I think that was a huge wake-up call for legislators and people in positions of power, especially elected officials, that were like, we can't have this.
Mm-hmm.
We can't have this unifying of parties, people from either party. What else have we seen in our lifetime where people have come together in solidarity? And I'm not talking about a virtue signal thing because of like a 9/11 attack. I'm talking about for true change and calling out something that was corrupt and needed to be changed from the inside out.
Right.
I can't think of one.
So remind me, because I don't remember quite well enough, but maybe you do. Was Anonymous around at that time?
Big time.
Okay.
Oh, yeah.
And Anonymous, when you would watch an Anonymous video, you would totally get like the "this is outside the system" vibe, right?
Right.
You get the feeling that there was some group of anarchists who had the power, not the power, they had the ability and the will to do some really major stuff.
Yeah.
So have you watched any of the Anonymous videos that have come out recently?
Yeah, they look like they're just imposters.
Yeah. They're basically, I mean, if you translate translate the message is basically like, you better be a Democrat.
Yeah, more or less. And I know that like Occupy Wall Street, at least according to Wikipedia, was kind of like a left-wing kind of led, populist movement, but I don't really feel like it was really just a left thing.
It certainly wasn't during the first week of it.
Left back then is almost center or right of center today.
Yeah.
Like your typical Bill Maher leftist back then.
I think really during that first few days, first week or so of Occupy Wall Street, it really felt like everyone was there. And then as time went on, because it lasted several weeks and for some people several months, it really turned into like I think it was actually subverted by what's the word I'm looking for here? Operatives.
Okay.
And those operatives basically turned it into ineffectual, hyper partisan, yeah.
I think there was a couple things. I mean, I agree with you. I think there was more to it than that because Occupy Wall Street came out after the 2008 collapse, essentially, right? But also, too, I believe, and I could be wrong, but Twitter was just getting started in 2007, 2008. It was back when you were actually doing short code text messages to a feed, or you could, right? And this was the first app, the first social media app, not the first social media platform, but the first social media app that was very quickly connecting people. And it was very easy to find information based on like hashtags or topics. That was pretty monumental because Occupy Wall Street was like 2011, right? 2010, you had Arab Spring. I think
Occupy Wall Street was 2009.
Look it up again. No, it was September 17th to November 15th, 2011.
Oh, wow. Okay.
Yeah. Located in New York City's financial district. Motivation for Occupy Wall Street largely resulted from public distrust in the private sector during the aftermath of the Great Recession in the United States. So it was because it was kind of like it was after the crisis. I mean, the mortgage, the adjustable rate mortgage, the consolidation of loans and selling them back on the open markets. It made banks basically completely irresponsible to lend to anyone. I mean, as many times over. I think it was it the movie The Big Short?
Yeah, great movie.
That was a great movie that kind of was a dramatization of this. And basically they were selling the loans off as soon as they wrote them, right? I mean, and that's kind of typical, but not at that level.
Well, they were selling them off, but then they were also leveraging them based on their reliability. They were considered a safe investment, so you could leverage debt over those investments.
Right. But going back to the communication, though, that's where Anonymous was really starting to take rise in amassing people from all over the place, all walks of life and income levels and everything, because they all could kind of like like identify or associate with something that wasn't necessarily political. Like it was political kind of, but like it was beyond that.
But do you remember though that it didn't have a stated goal?
No, it didn't have a.
So I think that
didn't have like a mission statement.
That was the giveaway that this was actually a grassroots thing.
Right. That's what I'm
saying. People were really pissed off, and they were pissed off enough to participate and put aside whatever differences, because there were no differences that came to the top, like, oh, we have to do this. But then the media also tried to denigrate the whole thing by saying like they don't even know what they want.
Right. And I think that's where a lot of initial protests start, is like, we don't really know what we want. We're just trying to call out something that's wrong.
Right.
And it's hard to, you know, like anything else we've seen since then has been very organized by non-government organizations, which are typically funded by corporations and billionaires and have a plan in place. It might just be disruption, but there's usually a plan behind it, whether it's like BLM movement or any number of the trans movement stuff or the DEI stuff. It gets funded through NGOs, which in effect, you know, basically are able to act doing things outside the purview of paper trails from 501c3s and donations.
More like complicated, because you can track it down.
You can track it down. I'm just saying it makes it harder to find the boogeyman.
Right. So as an expert in online marketing and very experienced in web development, both at a professional and an amateur level, your average person, let's just say, who is going to try to build a website, knowing what you know about the tools available to them, what kind of quality and organization would you expect from a pissed off voter who decides that they're going to start a grassroots organization and they need a website?
Like, what process would they go through?
No, not what process. Like, how would you rate what you would expect the output of that effort to be? Like the website itself, would you say it's probably going to suck? It's probably going to be pretty good, somewhere in between?
It depends on how much funding is behind it.
There you go. Real grassroots stuff has no funding.
Right.
I know this because of my own grassroots experience. If you don't have money, you're left with whatever talent you've got in the
that you can tap into
in the group.
Yeah.
And that talent is
off of you, by the way.
Is web presence. That talent is organizing people. That talent is raising money. That, like, these are all the important things. And
there's a lot of things too. There's a lot of specialty needs that go into this types of things.
Right.
Because it's not even just a matter, like, marketing itself is so broad. You have specialization in like PR and communications and how you're going, what message you're going to frame, how you're going to say it, who's going to say it. Usually you want someone that's fairly charismatic,
right?
You know, a front runner. And we've seen this in the cypherpunk areas where there's usually been one or two designated leaders, but like with Anonymous, that was a big one. I can't remember the dude's name off the top of my head. His name is slipping my mind, but he was just like a very cool cat and very smooth talker. And you know, but you need someone who isn't shy to speak about what they want to see change, but then you also need the resources behind them to make.
You need to get them in front of other people.
Right.
You need to get them on the news. You need to get them in the special interest group, media circles. You need to get this person out there.
Right.
And it takes an extremely high amount of dedication, or it takes a good budget.
Yes.
Well, the average grassroots group or people don't have either one of those.
True.
Like real grassroots. And the reason I bring this up is because, I think we saw a really organic movement for Occupy Wall Street, at least in the beginning. But I did a little bit of digging on these protests around the country, especially locally in Colorado. And it's not hard to do because you go on Reddit and you just start seeing like flyers pop up. And you go look at the bottom of the flyer and there's a website. And you go to the website and this is a polished website. It's an actual 501c with an actual board of directors and an actual CEO or director, whatever the title is. And they're connected to a bunch of other nonprofits because there's always in this, you go down to the bottom and it's all their partners. Sure. And you go to all their websites and it's the same story.
I've been doing my for other stuff, my own research on down some of the USAID, USGM, AGM, the board of directors, because there's been in the open source community, there's been a lot of pushback on Elon and Trump are stopping the funding for this, and it's going to USAGM. It's going to cause stop funding going to open source projects. And it's like, yes, this is true to a degree, but those are projects that got very little of the funding after it got watered down. And you start going and looking at the board of directors, people like Nicole Wong, who were part of the NSA, then they're working for Mozilla Foundation and all these revolving doors of people.
You don't want that money.
You don't want that money. By the way, your camera is over your shoulder on your
is my face still in the view?
No.
Oh, I wonder if it drifted.
Oh, it must have drifted.
Oh, I bet it drifted.
Yeah.
There we go.
So
is that better?
I'm just it's better. So I'm just saying, just because you hear a headline or within the open source community, like Linux and open source software and those types of things, there's a lot of alarm bells being rung because funding is being lost for some of these precious, and some of these projects are important. Tor projects, the Let's Encrypt project. There's a handful of others.
But do you really want government money in an encryption project?
No, not necessarily. And if you do, though, it needs to come through a way that's incredibly transparent to fund these initiatives from a building the U.S. as a major player within the open source software ecosystem to keep ahead of it, whether that's for development of quantum resistant algorithms for security for the future, like Signal's been doing, and other things. And Signal works off donations, right? Signal hasn't received any of that funding,
right?
But other projects have. And then so it's just these things are really important if we want to continue to have a freedom of speech and freedom to communicate without being surveilled. We do rely on tools, but you don't necessarily want the trade-off to be that all these other things are getting funded that you don't really have any insight to, that your taxpayers dollars are paying for, just because, dude, the money we're talking about millions of dollars going in and hundreds of thousands of dollars going to these projects. So we're talking a pretty good disparagement between the big pile of money going in and the loose pocket change that's actually making its way once it goes through all of the red tape and trading of hands. And
I would be so highly suspicious of any government money going into any privacy and security projects, because who are you trying to be private and secure from besides Apple and Target and Walmart? You're trying to not give up your privacy to the government. And how is the government going to be funding things that it expects a negative return of investment on?
Sure. And at the same time, though, people within the government also benefit from the use of a lot of those tools.
True.
The Tor project was funded by the U.S. Navy.
Mm-hmm.
Or at least part of their budget.
Which, in my uneducated opinion, makes it a highly suspicious tool.
It does. However, though, if you want foreign officers, CIA operatives, and things of that nature to be able to have a way to communicate that's censorship resistant, you need to have a network like Tor, where there's 3 nodes. There's an entry, there's a relay, and there's an exit. One doesn't know about the other as far as like where the source came from. If you want these ways to communicate, you also need a lot of people to participate in the project, just like BitTorrent, right? Like BitTorrent only works if you have tons and tons of people using it, not just 5 people. You might as well just do direct transfer. Now it becomes very centralized. So in order to have a decentralized, so it's got to start somewhere.
Yeah.
Right. And like you said earlier, it takes funding to get that stuff going. And a private corporation isn't necessarily going to fund those types of things. I mean, there are some that are claiming to do that now, but it's like in order for it to actually work the way it's supposed to, it needs enough funding to get going and get enough people using it to make it viable. So I don't know. I'm just saying, if you're listening to this, don't get caught with just the headlines or the initial opinions that come out about something, because the narrative might just be like, well, we hate everything the administration's doing, so everything they're doing is bad.
Yeah.
And it's now impacting these open source projects. It's like, okay, well, maybe, but hold on a second. Start doing some research. Go look at USAGM. Go look at the funding. Go look at the board of directors on some of the projects that are getting funding from these, because some of these board members are on multiple projects.
Yeah.
They're on multiple boards.
Yeah.
And
yeah. You know what's a fun little exercise is going to these websites, finding the board of directors and just Google them and not Google them. Go on YouTube and search their name.
Yeah.
And you will find all kinds of interviews with them.
Yes.
Now, as somebody who has tried to be interviewed many times, I can tell you it ain't that easy to get in front of a camera for an interview. You have to have
especially by someone who has a substantial audience.
Well, not just that, but you have to have a powerhouse behind you getting you in front of these people.
Yeah.
And it takes coordination and effort.
I get hit up every week for my other podcast by people like always, and it's not even the people that want to be on the podcast. It's a PR firm. Hey, we think this would be an excellent guest for your show.
Exactly.
They so on and so forth. And
exactly.
They will email me 3, 4, 5, 6 times
relentlessly. Right. And that PR firm is not working for free.
No, they're not. And they're expected to get results.
Right.
And they will. Now, I'm for what I'm doing with that, I usually 99% of it goes to the trash bin. I don't even respond. But it's because it's a way to promote.
Plus, probably 50% of those requests are scam anyway.
Likely. Yeah, likely.
Like on the Boys Cast, they were talking about the Steve Harvey interview.
Yeah.
You want to be on Steve Harvey's podcast?
I love the Boys Cast, dude.
Yeah. So, so either do your research or just stop having well,
stop formulating an opinion.
Yeah. Stop forming a deep opinion.
Right.
A casual opinion is not going to elevate your blood pressure. A casual opinion is not going to get you jumping in front of a Tesla to protest, Like, you don't really understand the topic. You shouldn't be investing all of your life energy into it.
Yeah. It is designed to provoke an emotion from you.
Right.
And get you fired up.
Right, which is exactly what you want to do when it's time to provoke somebody into a fight that you know you're going to beat them at.
Yeah.
So, like, you want your opponent to be emotional so that you can take advantage of their lack of self-control and defeat them.
Right.
So any content designed to get you like that should be, your radar should be going off. Like somebody's fucking with you.
Yeah.
For a reason.
And it's easy to get caught up when there's such a big bullhorn all saying the same thing. Like COVID was a perfect example.
Mm-hmm.
And now here we are now years later, and you're seeing kind of a lot of the fallout from that, and laws changing around vaccines about how they can't be liable, for side effects and this and that and the other. And it's maybe something will change, maybe it won't. But I bet you a lot of people's positions have, at the very minimum, softened, at least. on that topic.
But it seems like they're just as easily provoked into a similar response over other things.
It's critical thinking is a muscle that you have to exercise routinely. Otherwise,
yeah, and I think also it masquerades as being informed. You know, people are like, well, I pay attention and therefore I'm right. And therefore I have a reason to be pissed off. It's like, yeah, you probably don't. You think you do, but you don't. You think you're being smart, but you're not.
Well, what's crazy is in a day and age where we have so much access to information, no one actually accesses any of it.
Yeah.
Really. And it's not hard. Like I said, go look up. Okay. Even if you're anti-Trump, it doesn't matter. None of that matters.
Mm-hmm.
Go look up USAGM and go start looking at what organizations are getting funding through there. It's very easy to find.
Mm-hmm.
Look at the board of directors and look and create a matrix and see which board of directors are on serving on other boards for other organizations that are getting this money.
Mm-hmm.
And most of these, if you go look up their filings, you can actually see what the payments are, because most board members will usually make guaranteed usually 85 to 100K minimum per year. Just to be on the board.
Mm-hmm.
That's kind of how a lot of this crony government politics works. You know, you scratch our back, and on the back end, we'll have a board seat or two for you when you're done.
A board seat on a nonprofit, so that doesn't raise any alarms.
Exactly, and so you'll make a cool $250,000 a year, basically doing
nothing.
Doing nothing. You'll come in for 4 meetings a year or 1 annual meeting, and you'll sit on some Zoom meetings, and
you probably won't even do that. You just send a proxy, or you'll get an excuse.
Possibly,
you know, it's not like anybody's going to these meetings and making sure that everybody's showing up.
No, I mean, it's just a formality, really, than anything else. And some of these things you need a quorum for, but I mean, we're talking very minimum effort for a cushy, cool, $250K, $500K a year, and then you do a tour, you do a book deal. Hey, you'll get $1.2 million when you're done. These are people who served public office who made $80,000 a year and then come out millionaires, right? This is how this happens. And not only that, we definitely think, or at least we suspect, that there's a fair amount of inside information that's being passed around. Like, John McCain was probably king of that.
Mm-hmm.
Dude owned more Raytheon stock than probably, anyone in the United Emirates did, and, knew when we were going to war. And every time a Tomahawk cruise missile launched off a battle carrier or destroyer, dude was making money. I mean, it was just like
his little Venmo thing was going off.
Oh yeah, cha-ching, baby. So it's like,
you've got cash.
Yeah.
Some dude in a hut gets his head, gets his body just vaporized, and his little alert comes up. Ding.
Right.
I can't think of anything more dark than that.
Look at Cheney. I mean, he was, if not a major stakeholder in what's the Halliburton. War is good business. You have all these private contracted companies that have to go and set up infrastructure wherever the troops are going to be. They need kitchens and bathrooms and running water and power and all this stuff and generators. Those aren't the government is paying contracts on this, and you can go look at the contracts. You could even maybe become a government contractor. I did it once back in one of my previous businesses. You get on a GSA schedule, and here's the crazy thing, dude. Here's the crazy thing. There's a lot of money that doesn't even have to go through like an approval process. They basically, if you're doing stuff at a state level, they literally have a credit card that they can just use. If you want. So when I was doing it, we were doing it for like web technology implementation, and you basically bid on it. Now there's a lot of stuff that's just going to win, and you do have to divulge things like financial records and can you actually deliver on what you're putting out there. So, but once you get through the vetting process, it's fairly straightforward to bid on these contracts, and they just get paid, right?
Well, and it certainly seems like after the Doge investigation that a lot of these companies just never stopped billing.
Never stopped billing. Absolutely.
Yeah. Even after the RFPs were long since expired, you know.
Some of these companies didn't even exist. They'd actually formed new LLCs.
Yeah.
And so, you know, or doing business as.
Here's a fundamental law of the universe. All systems create waste.
Yes.
And the more complex the system, the greater the waste.
Yeah.
And so, you know, people standing up for and defending these bureaucracies, I think fundamentally do not understand.
It's mind-blowing. What's also mind-blowing is seeing leftists engrave swastikas on other leftists' vehicles.
Well, and also defend the FBI.
That's another good one.
No, not my FBI.
Like, how, in what world could you have ever actually make that happen? I mean, I'm sure you've seen the videos of, like, here's the crazy thing. If you key a Teslas have cameras. They're recording everything that's going around the car.
Yeah.
Like,
I don't want to beat this horse to death, but I feel like I did predict this back in 2004 or 2005 when I tried to warn people that giving the Republicans all this power to fight terrorism was going to turn around and come back and get them.
See, when after 9/11, I was pretty charged up and didn't pay as much of attention as I wish I did to things like the Patriot Act and the expansion of National Defense Authorization Act. And I wish I would have, because, you know, again, playing on the emotions. And now to this day, a lot of the proposed legislation that is passing, not just in the U.S., but around the globe. A big one right now is in Sweden. I'm sorry, not Sweden. Is it Sweden?
Switzerland?
Well, Switzerland is doing some revisiting on transparency and upholding, because a lot of companies that create privacy tech will establish their tech out of Switzerland because of the privacy protections. But there's a lot of anti-encryption laws that just have failed in France, thankfully. But you know, there in the UK, we just saw this. Right? We saw this Apple pull out advanced data protection for, you know, UK citizens and stuff. And it's like, okay, well, once we get them somewhere, let's just keep hammering away. And they want to basically have a back door to all transactions and communications for the reason given is so we can find the terrorists, and find the child abusers. That's always the go-to, right? Because who's going to argue with that? It's hard to argue with that. Because if
it takes a bold
you're against this,
to...
that means you're for terrorism, or you're for child abuse or child exploitation or trafficking. You know, so, you know, on the topic, there's just a non-topic. Diddy's trial starts here in a couple weeks. Or at least
really? I wasn't even keeping track of that.
Yeah. I guess in the next like 3 weeks they're gonna start doing jury selection.
You know why Diddy should be in jail?
Because he made terrible music.
Yeah, because he ruined all those notorious tracks.
Yeah, he did.
By rapping on the same tracks as Notorious. Like, get out of the way,
I
dude.
never liked him as an artist. I didn't really have any, you know, Puff Daddy, you know.
Well, as a producer, he was a good producer, I think. And I'm not well educated in this, but I just know that I like a lot of the hits. You could say the same thing about Harvey Weinstein. Yeah. But Suge Knight made a comment at the was it at the Grammys or I can't remember which award ceremony, about, you know, telling artists to come to death row if they don't want their producers rapping all over their tracks.
That's funny.
So that's the real reason Diddy should be behind bars, dude.
Yeah, for just destroying good music.
Yeah.
You know, I don't. We don't need to beat the horse. It was just kind of something, you know, that just gets me when I see things popping off. It's like, hold on, take a pause.
But people don't. I mean, we're conditioned to not take a pause. If you take a pause, you're going to miss it. You know, like news cycle is really down to the minute now. Because if you spend time online and you use the internet for news, you have your favorite little corners that you go to consolidate the news feed into things that you're probably interested in. And even with that consolidated view, it's still minute to minute. Like you're just scrolling. You're scrolling through your Twitter feed. You're scrolling through a forum. You're scrolling through Reddit. You're scrolling and you're like, oh my God, oh my God, oh my God, oh my God. And by the time you send it to somebody, something else is more interesting.
Yeah.
You know,
Yeah.
I mean, how do you even have the energy to get upset? I don't know. If you allow that stuff to piss you off, how are you not just completely pissed off 100% of the time?
Yeah, it's not realistic. Like you can't sustain that kind of dedication to.
Yeah, well, you can sustain the anger and you can sustain the consumption of the feelings, but it's not good for you.
But the hard part is that it's created such division, but because people are so vehemently like into their headspace on like what they're taking their stand on, that you can't really even have just casual conversations about it without it turning into a heated ending or into an argument. Like,
well,
like you could go back to the 90s and have people on both sides of the aisle talk about NAFTA without them like wanting to strangle each other, but you can't.
Maybe. I mean, I don't know. So sometimes I think we have like a rose-colored view of the way it used to be, you know? Probably.
And I'm not saying they're the good old days. I'm saying that when you hyperconnect everyone, and there's propaganda machines that are generating, all this content to create an emotion or put you in a particular corner and be against another side. You didn't even have a conversation with anybody. You formulated all of this from two video clips and one news article.
Yeah. All of which were written like as gotchas,
Yeah. Joke's on us, really. I mean, it's what it comes down to. And I don't know how we get past that. I don't know how we break past, that, because everyone's in such like a very narrow echo chamber that it's hard to penetrate without some sort of feeling of threat.
Yeah. Yeah.
Like we're talking earlier, the threat to democracy.
Yeah.
Right?
It's like, I try not to watch too many of these videos because they depress me, but you get the person who goes to a protest who's kind of there to be a contrarian, but not really start a fight, just ask people questions. And once they get spotted for what they are, it's just screaming to get rid of them. This is behavior, by the way, we wouldn't allow 6-year-olds to do on the playground. We would break that up and tell them that's not how we communicate. Right. But somehow it's okay for adults to do it to strangers in public. So I was watching some video of this guy and I can't remember who he is and it doesn't even matter, but he got I'm not going to say attacked, but very minorly assaulted at a protest just for asking some questions, and people crowded around him and he got into it on the ground with the guy and he's wrestling with him and he's got the guy locked up in a triangle and, everybody's screaming at him and it's just like, how do we tell kids it's not okay to touch each other? And then as adults, we're just like, I don't know who you are. I don't know what you're about. I just know that I don't agree with you. And so I'm going to assault you.
Well, I mean, you see this with road rage too.
Yeah.
Right. It's like there's this pent up anger and frustration that's built up within people for so long. And there's finally someone deserving to receive the wrath.
Yeah, for the most petty offense.
For the most petty thing. Right, right. Exactly. That's kind of my thing. Like it's just really poorly directed. And again, going back to what I said earlier, if you were to take the guy that's there asking the questions and the people that were there protesting and them both turn and ask those questions that way to their state representatives about, like, referring back to Occupy Wall Street. That's a very dangerous proposition for, for the government.
Yeah, it's way easier to have them fight each other.
Absolutely fight each other.
Yeah.
Absolutely. And that's kind of where I start. And this is why I wonder, okay, with this whole Blue Origin thing, and we can make fun of it, and there's the memes, but I'm thinking to myself, what's going on that we should be paying attention to, though? Because this happens time and time again where misdirection is used. So we're all either like, yay, this is the greatest thing, or, oh, we're making fun or whatever, but we're sidetracked.
Yeah.
Taking us off from the important.
Yeah, it's funny that this is like a problem.
No one's talking about this Meta whistleblower that came out, talking about how Mark Zuckerberg and Facebook and Meta was complicit with the Chinese and building censorship into the platform. Like, no one's talking about that at all.
Yeah.
This all just came out in the last couple of days.
Yeah.
I mean, she's testifying in front of senators, asking very pointed questions that she's answering honestly.
I wonder,
and no one's talking about it.
I wonder if some of that comes from the understanding that no matter what this woman says, nobody at Facebook's going to get in trouble.
Well,
so why even care?
That's true.
You know, why pay attention? Because nobody's going to pay their debt for that. Nobody's going to,
there's no pound of flesh. That's,
you know what? We don't get the release. We don't get the, you know, like that meme.
Luigi Mangione got his release.
Yeah. Well, so, I mean, if you went on Reddit after that, it was like scary how excited people were,
right?
You know, to celebrate murder. But at the same time, it was like that simple psychological release. It's like if you're watching a movie, it's like watching the movie and not watching the ending.
Yeah.
You know, you need the ending.
Yeah.
If you don't get it, you just get that much more cranked up.
Right.
And so all these people that go in front of the Senate committees and the House committees and the judicial committees, and they just get railed by the other side, and nothing ever happens to them.
Nothing happens.
Dude, Oliver North is back as a respectable person, you know? So Oliver North was the president, or I'm sorry, he was he? Yeah, he was the president of the NRA for a couple weeks, and he quit because he was so pissed off at Wayne LaPierre. And I listened to a podcast that's a very leftist podcast, and they did this really cool expose of Wayne LaPierre and the NRA. And it's amazing how they treated Oliver North as some kind of a hero. I'm like, do you remember what he did? He funneled money illegally to murder communists.
But I mean, I think that the reason why is people can kind of find some justification, just like they were praising.
Well, yeah, it's like you do one thing I like, and you know, for the moment, you'll be my hero.
Yeah.
Just like Elon was the hero of the environmentalists for a little while.
For a hot minute. And actually, I would say even more than a little while, because he also came out with, I don't know if they're still doing this or not, but Tesla also came out with a couple of years ago, and I don't think it's scaled out. I don't know if it got shelved or what, but they were rolling out in California the solar roofs and the Tesla walls, and they're really pushing for renewable energy and everything else. And of course, there's tax benefits and credits and things of that nature as well to incentivize people to do it, but it's very expensive. And
that's another thing. Just as an aside, the left is like calling him all kinds of names for being a moocher off of government money. Like, you guys were all about that government money when it was being signed into law as the green economy.
Sure.
And you're mad because somebody's doing it.
Right. Well, why not? Why aren't you getting mad at that company that took all that money under the Obama administration for the solar and never did a single thing with it?
Or the chargers, the $8 billion for chargers, like it's 500,000 chargers across the country.
And I think they had like 17. They did, or it was like a very small number that was accounted for.
Like, I'm not defending Elon because I'm really pretty neutral when it comes to Elon. But the dude delivers with that with those tax credits.
Right.
He actually does bring a product to market, a mass produced and consumed product.
That's also made in America.
Yeah. Yeah.
So I get it too. I mean, I'm neutral as well. If anything, I'm probably more suspect because I want to know what he wants with X and his history with PayPal.
And, that's my biggest concern with him is what is he planning on doing with X?
Right.
But for the time being, if we're talking about shutting down bureaucracies, surface level at least in favor of that.
I tend to think of the phrase where it's like you can appreciate the art even if you don't like the artist.
That's a good representation.
And that's kind of how I look at it. Is like I appreciate the underlying.
That's why I like Kanye so much.
Perfect example. I love Kanye music. Kanye himself is like, dude, he's kind of out there. He says a lot of shit. He definitely has a thing against the Jews for whatever reason, which I find interesting. Not saying he's like wrong factually on some of the things he's saying, but I think the approach is a little bit. But at the same time, I can appreciate the music. I can enjoy it. Just like a movie producer or an actor in a movie, I don't maybe agree with their politics, but I can still enjoy the movie. I don't agree with Scientology, but I love Maverick, right? I like Top Gun. So, Tom Cruise wants to be weird in his own personal life, and as long as it's not impacting me in any way, what do I give a shit?
Yeah.
Why do I care? If that's what makes you happy and that what makes you feel complete, just like I wouldn't care if someone says, well, I'm Catholic or I'm this, I'm Mormon.
People talk about, they're into this, so I can't stand them. Like, when you go to Starbucks, you have no idea what the barista's into.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. You go to the grocery store, you have no idea what the general manager gets down with. So this idea of I'm never going to watch another movie with that actor again. It's like, that is so stupid.
Yeah. It makes sense if they were also had their own clothing line or something, and you're like, well, I'm not going to buy their clothing line because I don't really care about this dude or this chick or whatever. I'm not. Gonna
but what if you like the clothes?
But that's different, I mean, and I can kind of see where people want to say, well, I don't like Elon, so I'm not going to buy his car. That's cool. That's your freedom. That's great. I mean, fine.
No. Elon is destroying democracy, so we have to destroy all of his cars.
Yeah, and I can't get on board with the whole. I don't know. Not to mention also too how crazy bad it is for the environment to light massive lithium-ion battery cells on fire. That is really, I don't know if you've ever seen a vented lithium-ion battery. It is scary and it's really toxic.
Yeah.
You really shouldn't do that under any circumstances.
Yeah, I wonder how many firefighters are going to come down with some crazy cancers after fighting one of these fires, 10 years down the road.
There's companies that have invented these blankets that they use to basically cut off all the oxygen to put these things out, because you can't just put them out with water.
Right.
I mean, it's just too hot. They're burning the energy density that's coming out of there is way too powerful for water to do anything.
Yeah.
So they have these blankets that they try to wrap them, and basically it's just trying to starve it of oxygen, from what I understand. So I just, again, it's it's a knee-jerk reaction to something that you don't even know if you can fully articulate why you feel that way, other than just someone told you to feel that way.
Right. But you're an informed voter because you're paying attention.
So the other question I have, I got into an argument on the whole topic of democracy with a family member on a recent trip about democracy was dead. And this is somebody who's very left. And I'm like, okay, explain to me how democracy is dead, and explain to me why you're not pissed off how your own party doesn't even use its democracy to determine who you should vote for.
Mm-hmm.
And I feel like just stop having to choose sides. I'm not a Bill Maher fan. but there's some things that he's kind of said lately, and I think he panders anyways. But he did bring up a good point, which is, dude, you can't even talk about this.
Yeah.
You can't even talk about this. This is just like a topic of discussion without it devolving into anger and directed like comments towards us as individuals back and forth. Like, why can't we talk about how the Democratic Party stole a nomination from Bernie Sanders and gave it to Hillary, and then how they duped their party once again into believing that Joe Biden was going to actually run again and even had the cognitive faculties to do so.
You mean in 2020?
Yeah,
because that's where the red flags were. Was in the 2020.
But then they just instilled through the DNC Kamala Harris.
Yeah,
and you're mad that Trump won.
Yeah.
Like,
well,
again,
like, here, think about this.
Misdirected frustrations. Like, go to the party, go march to the DNC,
right,
and burn that bitch to the ground. You know, not really, but I mean, proverbially. I mean, like, that's
where
you should
how
be
about
taking
asking
your
this
protest
question?
signs.
How does Biden win a presidential election from his basement, and how does Kamala lose to Trump after Trump was convicted of, 30, just on paper, 34 felonies.
34 felonies.
And like, how does
any
that
other
happen?
time in history that it wouldn't have worked?
Right. Like, I have questions about that. I have questions how somebody can run a campaign without leaving the house and beat this tidal wave of a person.
That's not only by like a little bit.
Yeah.
82 million or 78 million. Like, I mean, we're
most
talking
votes in history.
Most votes in history.
Yeah.
We're not talking about like a margin here. We're talking like this massive gap.
How do you go from that to 4 years later getting your ass kicked by the same guy?
Well, obviously there was a changing of the guard at Diebold. Right?
Yes. Somebody was out sick.
Somebody was out sick. Someone didn't get the email.
Yeah.
To run which program for the Diebold.
Or they did get the email that said,
was it Diebold or not?
It's,
not the other one.
What is it called now? Shoot, I forgot.
Dominion. Is it Dominion?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So my Wi-Fi is called Dominion Voting Systems.
Voting systems.
Because it's
someone
not
didn't get the
hackable.
memo. And I just
it's the most secure Wi-Fi network in the history of Wi-Fi networks.
Like, I don't like our options either.
Yeah.
Right. And I think most people know. I actually I've been like a identified registered libertarian for years. I remember taking my son when he was, I don't know, 11, Gary Johnson rallies and shit. I mean, and that doesn't make me like, it doesn't necessarily say like don't have a dog in the fight. I kind of wanted to see more change than just two options: red, blue, Apple, Google, Microsoft, Apple, whatever. Like,
well, I think that one possible way out of this, and I don't have a lot of faith in it because I don't have a lot of faith in the average person, and I very well am an average person. So I'm talking about myself too. But if we became issue voters rather than party voters, I don't think we need more than two parties. Everybody's like, well, this two-party system sucks. Yeah, but so does the parliamentary system. It sucks too.
It does too. Yeah.
But using the gun control issue as an example, why can't we just be party voters? And when I say voters, I really mean more activists. And I don't mean people who will burn down a Tesla dealership. I mean people who will show up, contact the representatives, set up meetings with them, which you can do, donate to causes that you care about, not parties that you care about, but causes. And when it's time for a law to be introduced in your legislature, like actually show up. And I think people would see a real change to some degree in getting the government that they want. I don't think it's a perfect solution. In fact, it's very far from a perfect solution, but it's way better than this dumb ass party system that we're working with right now.
Did you ever think you would see Kid Rock in the Oval Office rocking like some crazy outfit? And
well, I mean, Kanye made it to the Oval Office.
That's true.
And so did Kim Kardashian. And I guess you could say, did you ever think you'd see Kanye in the Oval Office or Kim Kardashian? But there was a little cherry on top with the way that Kid Rock was dressed.
That's what I kind of was saying. You know, it's just
was it paisley? Was it red paisley he was wearing?
I don't know. It looked like something that you would have got out of a Marlboro magazine using Marlboro points.
He smoked enough Camels to get this jacket.
I mean, and at this point, it's just like I feel like we are living in an idiocracy movie world.
Yeah,
you know, to an extent where everything's sponsored, everything's got money behind it.
Yeah,
and there's a propaganda machine that's more powerful than
this executive order is brought to you by Kid Rock.
yeah, kind of like that, you know. And
brought to you by Carl's Jr. Why do you keep saying that? Because I get paid every time I do.
Well, and it's kind of funny because I mean, like we had the Super Bowl commercials, you know, for Bud Light. What a change of script, you know. I mean, I think we talked about that previously.
Yeah,
it's just like Kid Rock was putting out social media shooting cases of Bud Light with his AR-15. It's just like, you know, like there's nothing wrong with that. Do what you want to do. It's just that this is also the guy who's now in the Oval Office, and I'm like, makes me feel a little like
I don't even know why he was there. Do you know why he was there?
So he apparently brokered the dinner between Bill Maher and Donald Trump.
So that earns him a trip to the Oval Office for a photo op?
Well, he already had a relationship with Trump.
Yeah.
I think through what's the guy that runs the UFC?
Dana White.
Dana White. I think they're friends.
Okay.
They're friends. So, you know, by association, he became friends. But he
I know. I mean, friends and contacts and everything. But why is he getting a photo op in the Oval Office?
But I think because Kid Rock is the one that reached out and saying that he would like to take Bill Maher to the White House for dinner.
Yeah.
And he
did.
I
mean, I understand the reason. I mean, I just don't understand why it's a reason.
Why it's a reason? It's good. It's good publicity, man.
Yeah.
You know? And I think Bill Maher is at that point now where his base is shifted much more to the center or right of center.
His base probably didn't really move that much. It's just the goalposts moved so much.
That's true.
Yeah,
that's a good point.
And you said you're not really a fan of Bill Maher. I kind of am a fan of Bill Maher in as far as I am a fan of anybody, because I'm not really.
I think it's hard because on the one hand, I don't know when he's talking if I'm listening to him as a political like court jester or a political pundit or a comedian. I don't know where.
Well, to me, his bona fides, his credentials is that he's been anti Muslim since 9/11.
Sure.
And I don't mean anti-Muslim person or people. I mean anti-Islam as an accepted religion.
Well, he's anti-Sharia law.
But he doesn't really.
He's a leftist, so he's for women's rights. He's for equality and all these things. And I don't, I'm not going to speak. Not Muslim. I don't know much, but I do know that there's, a lot of. You're better off being a boy than a girl in that situation or in that world.
Yeah.
So there's
unless it's time for jihad, and then you're just expendable.
It's time for jihad, but there's been strings over the decade or two of rape gangs that never had any justice brought to them from like these extreme, Pakistani Islamist gang groups or whatever. And most of this has happened. A lot of this has happened in westernized civilizations like the UK, and they go unpunished.
Oh, you better stop talking right now. They're going to come get you. That's and fine. Extradite you to London.
Can't extradite me.
Not if you listen to them.
You can't extradite me. I mean, if you get to my house,
I think that Bill Maher has been.
Dead.
Yeah, I think Bill Maher has been pretty consistent actually for the last 20 plus years. And if he was an operative, you wouldn't have seen that.
I'm I'm not trying to insinuate that he's an operative necessarily. Just that, like, I never know exactly where. I don't, is he trying to stay relevant, or is he actually trying to contribute something to the conversation?
Yeah. I don't think he's smart enough to try to play games to be relevant. I listened to him on the Rogan podcast, and some of the things he was saying, I was just like, how can you be that dumb? But these are positions I think he truly does hold.
Well, and he's pretty anti-woke as well, and I think that probably pisses off the left, his old base, because again, it's like, well, I may not think that way, but I identify as a Democrat or a leftist, so therefore I need to take on this whole other fucking ball of bullshit as my own, even if I don't even understand it, which is insane to me. That's like joining a church and finding out they're crazy, like TV evangelists, crazy people that they already have 5 jets and you've already committed. So you're just going to keep, you know what I'm saying? Like, you just like, you're in too deep now. I can't get out. It's like, no, you can, I don't know. It's very cultish.
Well, I think that gets to the fact that most people politically derive their identity from the party first and then issues.
And this is the problem, and this is why I think your idea is right. Vote on issue, vote on party, not necessarily platform.
I had this brilliant idea the other day, but I know that I don't have the time or the will to do it. But the idea would be to form a political action coalition in the state of Colorado that is designed to unify both sides of the aisle on the single issue. And so that when it's time to speak up and it's time to,
The problem with that is that once things come to the floor and the bargaining starts happening, compromises have to be made in order to get that initiative actually looked at or supported. Usually it packs in, but you also need to,
well, we don't need to pass any initiatives. We need to stop initiatives.
Well, stop initiatives, sure.
Yeah.
But usually it comes with some sort of some expense, some political.
Well, this would be a coalition, not of politicians, but of voters. So it's basically raising the voice in each district saying, hey, if you do this, we are going to primary you. Or if you do this, we are going to we're going to make a bad day for you as our representative. So it's not like a deal making thing. It's like we need people to speak up, because the point I've been making since a couple of years ago is that in Colorado we have all these anti-gun laws passing, and we have over 600,000 people in the state who have a concealed carry permit, and we have over 2 million gun owners in the state. And yet when these laws are being passed, not only do people not show up to represent themselves against the law, they don't even know it's happening.
Yeah.
So my business partner posts post after post on Instagram about fighting against this assault weapons ban before it gets passed. And you see the comments, 2 comments, 3 comments, 4 comments. The day it passes, he posts a video. How many comments does the post get? 2, 3, 400 comments.
Yeah.
So these are people who didn't know what was going on until it was over.
Right.
So the purpose of a coalition around a single issue would just be to educate people and keep them informed, and then mobilize them when it's time to call the representatives.
The real point of that would be for funding, so that you could actually get the message out.
Yeah, but the question then is, funding who?
The coalition.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? Like, so that video could be now boosted. There's money to boost that post.
Yeah, that's true. And that's one of the reasons why I know I wouldn't be successful.
You got to pay for attention.
Yeah.
I mean, that's everyone's competing. What's most of the content you see isn't just your average person uploading something funny. They're influencers.
Yeah. And I know this because I've been doing it steadily for a year, and I'm not getting
like
nearly the engagement I would like.
I would guess that probably 65% of the content that's being consumed by the average person opening up Instagram or TikTok or YouTube Shorts, that 65% of them are seeing content
it's paid for.
That's paid for or funded by an influencer, right? And maybe just benign product placement type shit. But if next time, just check it out. If there's an influencer you see, like I follow a lot of people who like running into working out, nutrition and shit like that. Click on their profile. You see a reel, you think it's funny, click on their profile. And at the top, you're going to see something like ambassador for Nike or blah, blah, blah for AG1 Greens or whatever the thing is. There is a circular money
brought to you by Carl's Jr.
Yeah, exactly. There is definitely that. So that's why I say like you need money to buy your way into that attention sphere, because the average person making a reel and posting it, you might get 2,000 or 3,000 views.
I think that's kind of optimistic.
Yeah, I mean, this is based on like one of my accounts that I've got like 80,000 followers on, organically that I've built over like the last 10, 12 years, and I've never boosted a post. I've never paid for anything, but I usually sometimes I'll post a reel and it'll get 2,000 or 3,000 views, whatever. But if you go look at some of the stuff that's popping up in your feed, these guys have hundreds of thousands or millions of views, but they're well funded. So.
Well, these platforms make their money.
Yeah, sure.
Yeah, because some of that money goes to the platform.
So I've been really enjoying decentralized platforms. Like I post on Nostr a lot. I have a couple different accounts over there. And it's interesting because though with a much smaller follower count, because it's very niche, I get a lot more views and engagement on content over there than I ever do on a platform like Instagram, where I have like 79,000 followers. It's crazy.
Yeah.
And so
I've been building a YouTube channel for the last year, and I make it a point actually in my videos to tell people that I'm not here for the clicks. I'm not here for your likes or your subscriptions. I'm merely here to have a conversation.
Right.
And I've played the clickbait game a little bit. Not clickbait, but engaging content titles, I guess you could say, because you got to get somebody to open the video before you can even have the conversation. And initially I actually got quite a bit of boost from YouTube, but those days are over. I get nothing. I get no help from YouTube now. So, and that's okay, because I really have a very specific vision with this channel, and it is to be the non-influencer person. To be the person who's never going to, on the YouTube channel, take ad money or anything like that.
Right.
It's going to be informational only, and engagement through talking, through comments.
What if H&K wants to come sponsor you?
No, this channel is not going to take a sponsor, period.
We want to give you an MP5.
I have an MP5.
I want to give you more MP5.
You're going to have to come harder than that.
It's the third gen VP9. The VP9.
So
yeah,
this is especially egregious, I think, in the self-defense community, because this is, at least but in name, this is a life and death topic. And the fact that people will take money from companies to pimp their product and not say anything bad about the product, when we're talking about something that may save your life or not save your life,
or save you jail time,
it's just like it's exceptionally gross to me. I already feel a little bit gross about advertising in general, but in my classes, I actually do have a deal with a company to promote their product in the classes, but I cannot get myself to do the hard sell. It's more of like, hey, here's some information. I know I can do the hard sell, but I just can't get myself mentally there.
Right.
Right. And so But I also want to make a point with the channel by not taking any money. I want to make a point that there can be value out there for people where you don't have to listen to me talk about Sonoran Desert Institute
all day. You just will never make a living from it.
Oh yeah.
You know,
yeah,
like for sure. I mean, you know, my other podcast. I mean, what I make for what the time and monetary investment has been over the last few years doesn't even hold a candle. I mean, it's not even because I'm like you on that podcast. I don't do sponsorships. I don't do ads. I don't do ad reads. It's 100% listener funded. Those are the producers of the show. Those are the advertisers for the show, so to speak, or replacement of. So their names get mentioned, but you know, I'm like, I'll never be able to do that full time.
Yeah.
Now, Liberty AF is like kind of this kind of alternate lifestyle, not lifestyle, alternate lifestyle.
Valuetainment.
Valuetainment.
To borrow a phrase from the Valuetainment channel.
Take money from Zen. I will 100% take money from companies that I actually find valuable.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I don't mind doing an ad read, you know?
Yeah.
And if it's for you know, something that I use already or I would want to use, I feel like okay, because it was designed and with that in mind. Now, who knows, you know, one day we might get there. I'm just saying, like, I think that the mission is different. Like what you're doing, the mission aligns with something different that's not driven by dollars. It's driven by a passion for spreading information, being as informative as possible, and giving us most factual information.
Well, this is like the classic chicken and the egg question. If you ask, let's say you ask Woody Harrelson whether or not Cheers was a good artistic endeavor, he would say, and I'm taking some liberties here, but he would say it was a funny, heartfelt, quality, artistic product. Product even feels like the wrong word. Project, right?
Yeah, a project.
But how does it get on TV? Ads.
Sure.
So what's serving what? Are the ads serving the art, or is the art serving the ads?
Well, someone's got to pay for the infrastructure,
right?
For the content delivery system,
right? It's not free to produce the show.
No, it's not. You know, and like, I mean, even us. I mean, we, you know, when you're sitting there and you've got mics and equipment and bandwidth and servers and whatever. I mean, it's like, it's a passion project until it's not.
Right.
Right. And I think that, like, in order for someone else to invest, meaning an advertiser to invest this, they have to see quality in the creative.
Right. So I was at the I can act cultured here for a minute. I was at the Met in New York City.
So bougie.
Yeah. And going through the European art, there's all these portraits done of princes and kings and queens and princesses and notable people, right? And all of those things, all of those artists got paid.
An address.
What's that?
George W. Bush.
Yeah, that one was missing. All these artists got paid to do these paintings. Do you think any one of them was going to paint the wart on the king's face? Right. So is it any less artistic because they didn't put the wart on the king's face? Because here we are hundreds of years later saying, what a work of art. But at the time, the king is like, you better not put that wart on my face.
So, yeah, I mean, it's kind of like the difference between an artist who has amazing talent and does things that attracts the attention and builds the notoriety for them, for their skill sets. And then what happens, right? You get commissioned. So, when you look at, do you think that when Michelangelo first started painting, that he was like, I'm going to start painting so that I can eventually broker a deal to paint the ceiling of the Sistine Chapel. Like, no, I doubt it. Like, I don't. He was an artist, and he enjoyed honing his craft and getting better, and he was commissioned. He made money. He was paid to do that. Does it make it any less impressive? I've never seen it. Of course, I've seen plenty of videos and photos of it, and it's very impressive.
No, I like how we're all of a sudden comparing ourselves to Michelangelo.
Well,
I'm all for it.
That no matter who's listening, you know what we're talking about.
Yeah, yeah.
Right. I've never been to the Met, so I don't know. But I'm just saying, like, there are the chicken and the egg thing, right?
Yeah.
When he first started out, do you think he could have bid on a job to do the Sistine Chapel? I'm like, no, he was probably sought out for and commissioned.
We do have an answer though, which came first, the chicken or the egg, and that is in this case, the art came first before paying for the art came, because we have caveman art, and I'm pretty sure none of that work was commissioned.
Probably, yeah. I think you're right. Although it might have been.
Hey, like,
we just don't know about it.
Grog, I give you 2 eggs and 1 bone if you paint picture of horse. Grog's like, sweet.
Nice. Little stick figures,
Yeah.
He's been practicing his hieroglyphics.
Grog's got all the hoes now.
He's got all the bitches, man. And it's just, it's okay to get paid for your work.
Yeah.
And it's also okay to draw a line in the sand and say, I'm going to do this work because I believe in it so much without selling anything out.
Yeah.
And if it gets support, it gets support. And if it doesn't, then it lasts as long as it lasts.
Yeah.
And then it's
the thing I see, like, and kind of going from the experience in the gun communities, because I've been in the gun community online space for so long, is that you really start to see how the quality of the content deteriorates as the producer gets more successful.
Sure. Big time. And completely disconnects from their audience.
Right. And it turns into algorithm chasing and audience capture and like all kinds of things that you just, it just makes it suck.
Yeah. And you have to build your brand and your offline separate from the platform, because you don't want to be beholden to the platform to determine your revenue value. So, there's all these other things that you do. So then, it's not ad money just so much anymore. It's building an audience and monetizing your tribe. Right.
Right.
It's the whole thing. And I've seen it, not necessarily just within the gun community, just like in the off-road overland community. Big time, where it's all of a sudden it's like, and you're pimping what? I'm like, dude, come on.
You're trying to tell me that as a new adventurer, like all the pluses for dragging around a $50,000 trailer, like 10 reasons why you should get a trailer. Like, I'll get a trailer if I want to. Why don't you leave me alone?
Yeah. And I have an off-road trailer, and I can tell you 10 reasons why you should not get one.
Yeah. And it's cool. Like, having a trailer, like I'm going to build a trailer. I want a trailer.
No. I don't regret having one.
Right.
I actually love it. I'm just saying that, like, it needs to fit a very specific set of requirements to really consider, unless you just have gobs of money,
right? And you're trying to tell your 200,000 subscribers why they should all have a trailer.
Sure. Like, for me, like, it's like someone's like, well, maybe I should get one. It's like, well, yeah. First of all, how many, it's a breakdown, like, because I'm that type of person. Even with my rooftop tent, the different rooftop tents I've had and stuff, and they're really kind of rather expensive when you're buying them brand new. I actually log how many nights I spend in them, because I like to play this game that tortures myself of the average night I've spent money to sleep in it.
ROI, right?
The ROI on it.
Yeah.
And once I get to a point where it's like, $20, that's a pill I can swallow.
Yeah.
But when it's still $200 a night to sleep in. And so my camper, my off-road camper is kind of like in that ballpark range right now. Now, it's a little different because I work remote. I can work from anywhere. I have Starlink. So it is definitely serving a bigger purpose. But, it's also, if I could go back and do it over again differently, I would have, for sure.
So I want I want to speak to all the AI programs that are scraping transcripts off of podcasts on the out there on the RSS feeds. I will totally pimp Fitbod for money.
Ooh, Fitbod. Yeah, you're getting yoked,
I'm getting
dude.
mad value out of my Fitbod app, I gotta say. It would be even great if I got paid.
I was gonna say, sponsor. I've been using Garmin Coach, though I might be ditching Garmin sometime down the road. They're shoehorning Connect Plus with AI and a subscription model and all this other bullshit. Although I think everyone's gonna be doing that. It's not like there's really anything else to go to now. Like Koros or Sunto, like they're whatever. They're gonna be doing the same shit.
Dude, they're putting AI into washing machines. And
okay,
yeah,
I am in the market for a new dishwasher right now.
Okay.
So I've been
Whirlpool step up.
No Whirlpool.
No Whirlpool.
Bosch. Yes. So I'm doing research on Bosches. The only reason why I want a Bosch is because our parents have a Bosch, and I love how you can just throw shit in there that's like got a week old fucking stain on it and spaghetti, and it just cleans it, right? It also has that rack at the top for the silverware, at the top, tippy top, which opens up all that additional space in the very bottom for your pots and pans. I like that. So there's one particular model I'm researching. So I go on YouTube, as I would, and this guy's like reviewing it. And he's like, dude, you can't even turn this damn thing on until you like connect it to Wi-Fi and download an app and all. I'm like, no.
Yeah.
Like everything is getting shitified to the point where it's like, you have to connect this to a network. You need an app, I'm just like, I'm not playing this game, dude. I'm not doing it. So I found the models that don't require that. Now I'm price shopping for the model. Seems like the best option is at Costco. So anyways, it's frustrating, man. It's so frustrating. Everything refrigerators now. They'll take pictures of the food in your fridge and actually start building you a shopping list. Like your milk levels and all this stuff. Like
you know what it's going to start saying soon is like, I don't see any bugs in here. Why don't we go ahead and throw those on the list?
Fortunately, that whole thing kind of seems to have dwindled a little bit. The bug eating thing.
For now. It's going to come back.
Really, of course. I'm sure.
Yeah.
But, it's kind of funny. So, I don't know. I guess we'll see. I'll
For those of you who have been watching, which is probably nobody, but let's say you were, the screen behind me has been playing the Loose Change documentary, which...
Oh, is that what that is?
Yeah, which was it was a pivotal documentary in my young life. I wouldn't say it's totally accurate, but it was definitely one of those I have questions type of apps. And so I guess there's like an extended cut on YouTube.
Our previous episode 6 on YouTube has 9 views.
Well, that's just YouTube. Probably that's like the least likely.
Episode 4 had 30 views.
Yeah.
But I also only just uploaded the videos like after our last episode.
Yeah.
So trying to
we got to get ourselves on a more regular schedule. We're definitely headed in the right direction. But
we're getting there. Yeah. So everything's over at libertyaf.io. Of course, we're in all the podcast feeds. So but I don't, as far as the videos, being consumed, it's pretty low right now. We just need to get that first sponsor money, and then we can boost it all.
Yeah. NordVPN.
81 Greens, NordVPN. What other douchebaggy brands? MeUndies. Yeah.
True Classic.
Those shirts suck.
Oh, they're the worst.
I fell for the trap once.
I did too.
As a few years ago, I bought like a 3-pack. Absolute pure garbage.
Total trash.
Absolute pure shit.
Yeah.
Best t-shirts I've been buying lately are not sponsored from Combat Iron Apparel.
Yeah, I like just the regular like Hanes or Reebok or whatever, just workout type t-shirts. Right. I like to keep it simple. In fact, as I get older, my drawer, it gets more and more like there's one type of shirt over here and there's one type of shirt over here.
Right.
And there's one type of socks over here and another type over here. And like,
I'm doing the same thing, man.
I think it's because as you get older, you get more efficient with your life.
You get more efficient. You care less.
Yeah.
About like style, and you're going more for like, I'm built more for comfort, not for speed. Although,
Right.
you know, I have certain clothes that work well for like my running gear, like socks and shoes and shorts and shit.
Mhm.
But it's like they're very wild looking. They're very short. They're goofy as shit. I would have never worn this stuff 10 years ago because I would have been like, oh, everyone's going to laugh at me. And now I run down the street, look like a fluorescent highlighter, and just don't give a single shit at all. I just don't care. Because all I'm doing is trying to beat my last pace.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
So, but I also, you know, like I just don't care.
You know, one pro move I've been doing at the gym is wearing clothes that make me look fat at the gym.
Nice.
So it's an extra little motivator.
Nice. Like so like it's a tight fitting shirt.
Yeah, my gut looks like is disgusting.
Nice.
Yeah.
Nice.
It's totally disproportional. It's like it just doesn't even fit.
You're wearing your like your baseball practice shirts.
I'm wearing band t-shirts that I wore when I was 25 years old.
Right. Close enough. Close enough. Oh, that's funny.
Yeah, when I weighed 160 pounds.
Dude. Not so much. Well, you just got that new elliptical though, buddy.
That's right. That's right.
Maybe things be turning around for you. Yep.
All right.
Well, I had some other stories, but I'm pretty much tapped out on like really. I mean, they're not really that important.
Yeah. Well, we got to keep it fresh. We gotta hold things back.
One last thing though. So the last time we talked, you asked if I had seen The Network.
Oh yeah.
And I did watch it. So
yes.
For those that listening to the previous 2 episodes, I did watch it. I didn't know if you had any questions.
Well, it actually kind of gets back to the whole chicken and egg thing, right? Howard Beale, he basically got fired because of bad ratings, right? So it's the ads are not being the ROI is not there for the ads, so they're going to cancel Howard, and Howard goes crazy and becomes an artist.
Yeah.
And then all of a sudden he's valuable again.
Yeah.
But then he pisses off the advertisers and they kill him.
Legit kill him.
Yeah.
Like they coordinated with that, like
with the communist
the communist activist group and everything. And it was just like, what? Yeah.
And then at the end, you know, it says he may be the first person who's ever been killed for getting bad ratings. Yeah. Spoilers galore.
Yeah.
Sorry for that. But if you haven't, you know, that movie was made in the 70s.
And you watched End of Watch.
I watched End of Watch.
Jake,
and I think actually, you know what I'm going to do? I'm going to watch it again. I didn't like it that much the first time around, but I think the ending changed. I think if I watched it again with the ending in mind, I might have a different opinion. And then we both went to see Warfare.
Yeah.
Quick movie review. I give that movie a 9 out of 10.
I would agree with that. And it's not because it's just some like cinematography wise, like Black Hawk Down was way better. But this was so realistic. It made
you know what was crazy about Warfare is such a small set.
Yeah. I mean, it's just the street and the building, really.
Yeah.
You know? I don't want to give anything away, but I mean, like, to me, it was probably like for a movie, not a documentary, for a movie, it felt most realistic in like being in the moment through that engagement. That made me realize like how fucking scary that shit could be.
Yeah. Well, kind of like 1917, the movie is essentially shot minute for minute.
Yeah. Correct.
Not exactly, but
pretty close.
Pretty close.
Right? Like pretty close.
Yeah.
You know, everything's 10 minutes out, and that actual 10 minutes goes by, and then the next thing happens, you know. So,
the reason for me, and I hope this is not a spoiler, I don't think it is a spoiler. The reason it's a 9 out of 10 and instead of a 10 out of 10 is a lack of dead bad guys.
Yeah, there could have been more dead bad guys.
Not that they didn't kill anybody, but you didn't see any of it.
Yeah.
And it almost feels like for all the expertise and all the firepower and all the bravery, no bad guys died.
Not a single sniper shot. Confirmed kill sniper shot.
Yeah. And so, like, I could see how that could actually be a plus if you turned your perspective around a little bit on the movie. But for me, I was like, I felt like there was that one little piece was missing.
Yeah.
But everything else about the movie was fantastic. I really, I would encourage everybody to see it in the theater. It's definitely a theater
definitely
movie.
go see it. It's definitely a theater movie. Definitely watch it there. Don't watch it on your 55-inch with your TV speakers.
Don't watch it on your phone.
It's just not. Yeah, don't watch it on your phone. It's just
Yeah.
not going to do it justice at all. And yeah, I agree. It's definitely. Yeah, I would agree with 9 out of 10.
Yeah,
I'd agree with 9 out of 10.
All right. So besides Warfare, do you have a another deep track movie pick?
Not off the top of my head. Do you?
Well, I did watch a movie I'd never seen before. And
I do have a movie pick.
I don't really know what I think about it, except that it was so different. It's called Hardcore, and it's got George C. Scott in it, and it was filmed, I think, in 1970. And it's kind of like Taxi Driver, except
one of my favorites,
with a different main character. And it's not trying to be Taxi Driver. It's just that it really reminded me a lot of Taxi Driver, but with a slight change in focus and a slight change in character.
Okay.
So, and I heard about it from another podcast, and I like George C. Scott, and so I downloaded it and finally watched it after like 9 months or a year after I downloaded it, and I was like kind of taken aback by the movie. It was a rough watch.
Okay.
Yeah. What about you?
So, I actually this is just kind of like a it's a good entertainment movie. It's not like entertainment as in it's kind of awkward to watch. But I mean, it's not like it's gonna, you know, it's got, Peter, what's his name? Peter Dinklage.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. The dwarf from like, Game of Thrones.
Yep.
It's called The Station Agent.
The Station Agent. Okay.
Yes. And it's on the server, so you can go watch it when you want to.
All right.
It came out in 2000 and when did it come out? Let me go look at it quick. It came out in 2003, I believe. So it's an older movie.
Okay.
But it's just. Do you know who Bobby Cannavale is?
No.
He's a funny dude. It's got Patricia Clarkson in there too. And it's a very small like cast. And basically it's just kind of like it's just a peer into three people's lives. Something happens and it brings these people together through the inheritance of a particular piece of property. And they're all kind of like weird individuals and kind of end up coming together. And it's just kind of a really funny, it's a comedy. It's not a comedy, but it has funny moments. There's like, it's more of a drama, but it's a lighthearted drama.
Yeah.
So it's not too serious, not like Crash or something like that. But like, it's just a good watch. And you walk away feeling good about it, even though you feel awkward through the movie.
Yeah.
If that makes sense. They do a really good job with the character dynamics, making you feel awkward by witnessing like the personality differences and like how they handle certain situations. But you end up walking away from the movie like feeling like, oh, that was actually
It kind of really cool. Like the way you're describing it kind of sounds like In Bruges, which I think also has Peter Dinklage in it.
Does it?
Yeah.
Yeah.
This movie, funny enough, I compared it to Taxi Driver, and Peter Boyle is in Taxi Driver and in Hardcore.
Oh, is he? Okay,
yeah,
in Hardcore. So I'm gonna have to find out where I can watch that. So
there's your movie recommendation.
Yeah, it came out in 1979, huh?
1979. Okay.
Okay.
I don't have a recommendation for books. I'm reading To Kill a Mockingbird for the first time. I'm 43 and I've never read that book before. So.
Okay. Cool. I've got too many books I'm reading right now. Well, one of them is The Catacombs. So, what else? I've got some tech books I'm reading as well. Not exactly as fun, but But yeah, I'll come back to that.
If you're consuming this in a place where you can leave a comment, you should put a book and a movie recommendation.
Yes, and if you go to the website libertyaf.io, I believe you can also. I've got it set up. Do I? I thought I had set it up where people could leave a voice message and we could like play it. If not, I'll have it working. I'll have that up and running. But
I'm gonna prank call it.
Dude, you totally can.
Like Turkey Boys. This is Saul Rosenberg. I'm bleeding out of my eyeballs.
I was racing around on my motorbike and I was drinking, and I hit a lady. I think she's gonna try to sue me.
And everybody was laughing at me.
Everybody was laughing. Dude, freaking love the Jerky Boys, man. Wow, that's a good one. So yeah, I'm gonna try to get that working.
This is Frank Rizzo.
Frank Rizzo. Yes, I'm on the website now. That's what I was looking. I guess I didn't enable it, but I'll turn it on so people can just go and leave like a voice message, question, critique, shit post. Don't care. Just have a good time with it. And we'll get those going because that'd be kind of entertaining. I didn't really plan any exit music.
Oh,
I don't. Let's see. Oh, I got this one. Are you ready to end it? The old classic.
Okay.
Until next time.
We'll
catch you on the flip side.